Okay. Show me.
What is up YouTubers, DutchRC in the house. Thank you very much for tuning in for a video on the content of this here box from GepRC. It doesn't really say what's in it, does it? Okay, so this box contains a Smart 35 HD Polar Nano RX. What? That makes the content of this box a 3.5-inch semi-lightweight quadcopter digital version, the HD version with the Polar camera. There is also an analog version, and that analog version is approximately $100 less. Do you remember those review videos in the early days of the DJI setup, in which the reviewer told you, no, the DJI setup won't make quadcopters more expensive, no. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't one of those reviewers. In fact, I didn't review the DJI setup at all. Oh well. So in this video, I'll take everything out of the box and show you what you get for your money. However, the most important thing of this video is to show you how flight ready this quadcopter is if you order it. So if you take it out of the box, you will have to put on some propellers, bind the receiver. In my case, I've got a receiver in it. You can order it without receiver, or an RXSR receiver, an FSky RXSR receiver, or a TBS crosswire receiver. I have a crosswire receiver in mine. So again, let's see if you take this quadcopter out of the box, what you need to do to get it flight ready. Maybe you have to screw things together. We'll see. Okay, let's first quickly see what you get. So, foam. And there's some foam at the bottom of this box. However, as you can tell, the quadcopter itself isn't encased in for instance, a block of foam. So, yeah, the packaging could have been a little bit better, I think. However, as you know from GepRC, the quadcopter itself was packaged or shrink wrapped in plastic. Right, I've already taken out the quadcopter, as you can tell. I checked things. But okay, so the packaging was reasonable. Then we have EMAX propellers. Interesting, EMAX propellers. Nice color. But these are actually a little bit racy propellers. Interesting, yeah. And I don't think there are other propellers with this quadcopter, so interesting. And we'll see in this video if this works out. We will definitely be flying the quadcopter in this video. And yeah, one set of EMAX propellers. Okay, and we've got a care package with quite a lot in it actually. And we'll take a close look at that in a sec. You've got documentation for the Vista kit and the support card. Well, yeah, okay, a card with QR codes to their social media. Decals, very appreciated. And more decals. Okay, very nice. That's everything. Let's take a close look at this care package. As I mentioned, we will be test flying the quadcopter in this video. However, I'll do a roundup review in which I compare it to the Beta FPV X-Night 35. A side-by-side comparison, a shootout if you will. So that's coming up. Yeah, and also I paid for this quadcopter with my own money, in case you were wondering. Okay, we've got foam landing feet, 8 of those, so basically a spare set of those, very nice, I appreciate it. We got one strap and another strap. Okay, that's weird. One strap is packaged in foam and the other one is, oh well, 2 straps. And we've got a lens hood. The protective lens hood, TPU printed lens hood for the camera, appreciated as well. We've got, these are probably screws to screw on propellers, probably. Yeah, probably. And we've got an Allen key, we've got anti-slip mat for the battery, one anti-slip mat for the battery. We've got some more screws. These are probably spare screws for the frame. We've got an action camera mount. Interestingly, this one is almost the same as the one that came with the Beta FPV X-Night 35. So yeah, very nice. And so this mount, as you probably know, GepRC sells a naked encasing for the GoPro 8, and that fits into this mount. I actually have one of those, so yeah, I'll try that. And we've got some washers, spare washers. Maybe you need those with this. These are actually frame braces. Very nice. So it's a straight up X, right, this frame? But you get braces, 2 front and 2 rear braces. Very nice. And we've got antenna tubes, which is a bit weird. Well, I've come to expect this. This is usual for GepRC and a lot of other manufacturers. This is basically part of the frame kit, right? But my quadcopter already has a receiver in it, so you don't... Yeah, okay. No biggie. It's nice to have. Maybe you can use it for another quadcopter you're building. Very nice. So guys, the GepRC Smart 35. On the first glance it's a pretty simple quadcopter, bottom plate, and the arms are part of the bottom plate, as you can tell. So yeah, if you break an arm you'll be breaking the entire bottom plate. On the other hand, these are light quadcopters, right? So the impacts won't be severe if you crash a quadcopter like this. Then you've got some aluminium standoffs and a top plate, and that's it. You've got carbon fiber for your camera mount up front and some TPU prints at the rear for antenna mounts. Pretty basic stuff, right? And that's okay. It also is well built. So far I haven't seen anything I needed to address. 1404 motors, which is typical for a lightweight setup. In a couple of minutes we'll see if it actually works out, right? We'll fly the quadcopter, but yeah, this is a lightweight quadcopter. Long range, I'm not sure, but yeah, a lightweight quadcopter, so the flight times would be nice, endurance, and I'm not sure if this can be called a freestyle quadcopter. I don't think so. Maybe mild freestyle quadcopter. And yeah, so receiver at the rear. Again, I have a TBS receiver and Nano RX receiver, and I can get to the bind button. I did actually have to press that bind button, which might seem unusual for a TBS Crossfire receiver. Usually if you take those out of the wrapping, you don't have to press that button. However, that tells us that they checked, GepRC checked the receiver if it worked. Also, the all-in-one flight controller / ESC has black box logging, and in that black box log I could see that they spun up the quadcopter. So they checked if, well, the setup did at least something. The all motors spin and such. And okay, so above that all-in-one board you've got the Vista unit over here, and at the front you've got a polar camera, which I have never flown, by the way. So yeah, that's nice to see if that works out. At the rear we also have a pretty big capacitor. This is a 4S quadcopter, by the way, even though you can probably fly it on 3S as well. GepRC suggests a 750 mAh 4S, I think. I will be flying this quadcopter on the BetaFlight 750 mAh 4S battery, simply because I got a couple of these. I ordered these together with the BetaFlight X Night 35. So in that sense I'll test this quadcopter on exactly the same Lipos as I'll be flying the X Night with. So. And one thing I also noticed, yeah, I said that this here is a set of spare screws. I actually think that these are slightly longer screws for you to be able to mount these braces. These obviously require slightly longer screws, and you'll be replacing 2 screws on each motor to mount again these braces. I'm not sure if I'll be testing the quadcopter with or without the braces. I should be able to, right? They come with the quadcopter. Let's actually first see what the weight of this quadcopter is. Alright, the dry weight of the GepRC Smart 35 digital, here we go. It is 146 grams, however we do need an anti-skid mat and we do need a battery strap. Okay, so 151 bare weight, which is incidentally exactly the same as the BetaFlight X Night 35. Okay, again, 750 mAh 4S battery. 232 grams, well below 250 grams, very nice. So just like I'll mention with the BetaFlight version, This quadcopter can be flown on bigger lipos. In fact, GepRC tells us 750 mAh to maybe approximately 1100. I'd say that's possible. You shouldn't expect lightning performance or even mild acrobatics at that weight. But that way you definitely have an endurance quadcopter, right? So yeah, again, very nice to see that it's sub 250 grams. I'm not all that invested in that myself, but a lot of people are, especially for instance if you live in the US or in other regions in which that's important, well below 250 grams. In fact, let's actually even include those braces. Still far below 250 grams. Very nice. And the last thing I want to mention about this Smart 35 from GepRC is that I didn't have to do anything to make it flight ready. So the receiver was connected correctly to the flight controller, it was set up correctly. Yeah, the BetaFlight version is a little bit on the old side, 4.2.3. Yeah, 4.2.3. So that's a little bit on the old side by now. We'll see if it flies well. I don't have a problem with that, right? Yeah, you can maybe improve it yourself with a new firmware version, but well, we'll see. I'm assuming it'll fly well, like it is. And so the DJI setup was connected correctly. It has flight modes, it has an OSD, maybe you want other flight modes, but you can definitely take this quadcopter out of the box and fly it as is. All screws were in securely. And no issues at all, right, basically. So I screwed on the propellers, counterclockwise or counterclockwise, well, counter-rotating propellers. So the front propellers rotate outwards, the rear propellers rotate inwards. And so that's the opposite of what you'd have stock in BetaFlight. Also, the USB port is readily accessible. Actually, the mounting of this flight controller is pretty smart. It is a Whoop style flight controller or all-in-one board, but it's rotated 45 degrees. And that means that, well, for instance, the USB port is well accessible. Very nice. Smart. Smart 35. Yeah. So what else can I tell you? Yeah, I am a little bit, well, worried about this. The Crossfire receiver being this close to the motors, it can basically touch the motors. Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about this mount for the Immortal T antenna. But I've had quadcopters like this in the past and it wasn't an issue, but still, I'm not really happy to see the tips of the antenna being so close to the actual magnets. Oh well, we'll see if that works, right? In fact, we'll see that immediately. Let's go and test this quadcopter. Alrighty guys, test ride with the GepRC Smart 35 HD with the polar camera on a nice and sunny day, as you can hopefully see. Our motors, and we are up and away. Yay. It is windier than I had hoped. We are in the Netherlands, right? So it's often windy. Yeah, and I should add that I just a minute ago recorded my flight review with the Beta FPV X-Night 35. A very similar quadcopter, but I can already tell that they aren't 100% the same. This GepRC also 1404 motors, and yeah, again, I hope you'll be able to hear what I'm saying because it's windy. This GepRC feels lighter, which it isn't. It's actually the exact same weight, and I'm using this exact same battery, well, exact same type, a Beta FPV 750 mAh 4S battery, but yeah, throttle response is a little bit faster with this GepRC. Again, it feels lighter. Oh, it also seems more susceptible to wind. Wrong word, susceptible. I can feel or see the wind more in my... Maybe there's a little bit more wind, that could also be. Okay, so the striking part or interesting part with this quadcopter are its propellers. very unusual choice for a quadcopter of its kind. These kind of aggressive EMAX propellers. You can see them probably in the DVR, those red tips. That does look nice, by the way. But yeah, maybe that's the biggest difference actually in this quadcopter. It's propellers. And yeah, definitely I have to fight the wind more. But kinda also just like the Beta FPV, this GepRC flies very, very well. 100% stock this, right? I haven't changed the tune, anything. I haven't added ESC telemetry, things like that. It's box stock, literally. I have added my flight modes and that's it. Yeah, obviously I've bound the receiver to my radio. Yeah, the most striking difference so far is how light this quadcopter is. Its throttle response is different. And that's not really better or worse, I'd say. It's simply something I have to get used to just having flown the Beta FPV quadcopter. It takes a little bit of effort for me now to keep it down low, if you know what I'm saying. Other than that, I must say that both of these two quadcopters have surprised me. I was expecting not to like these much, even though, yeah, I like most RCs, but I prefer more powerful quadcopters. For instance, like the Diatone Roma F35. That is a more powerful, that's actually a completely different kind of quadcopter, right? Far more of a freestyle quadcopter, even though, yeah, this is at the very least mild freestyle capable. Both this GepRC and the Beta FPV. But yeah, again, both of these quadcopters perform better, and I don't see major tuning issues with either. Sure, if you add a far bigger Lipo or an action camera and such, maybe you'll have to do some tuning, but just like on the Beta FPV, I think the quadcopter looks as if it would like a little more weight, so a bigger Lipo or an action camera. That's what both of these quadcopters fly like. Why? Well, mostly experience with quadcopters. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that there's a little more wind in this flight test than with the Beta FPV. That's a bit of a shame, but okay, by now I'm used to it. Actually, not a issue. Okay, how long has this flight been? 5 minutes, damn. Yeah, time flies, right? Okay, so you know what? I'll set this quadcopter down and then I'll give you a wrap up of my from box to flight experience with this GepRC. Hi, cheeky day. Alright, GepRC, you did well with this quadcopter. This quadcopter made me happy. I did fly it, by the way, with the reinforcement bars. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, mostly because I liked the looks of the quadcopter better this way. But it probably makes the quadcopter a little more stiff. But I'm assuming it would more or less fly the same without them. Yeah. So again, I'm happy with this quadcopter. Well done, GepRC. I didn't have to do anything to this quadcopter. All screws were untied and the configuration was right. Flight controller set up and receiver and DJI digital stuff. 100 points. This quadcopter worked out well without any change. I had to bind the receiver. I applied my own flight modes, but I didn't have to. If you are looking for a first quadcopter, you'll have to bind it to your radio. And that's about it. yeah, you'll have to look up what the stock flight modes actually are, or apply your own, but basically ready to go. Very nice. So again, I'll do a roundup of this quadcopter versus the BetaFV X935 and my new differences. And again, I think the biggest difference is actually the propellers, these EMAX propellers, sorry. Yeah, Scimitar, I'm not sure what these propellers are called, but you can see that they're different. They work out well, and I think for both of these quadcopters goes lightweight, right? So a little more wind will push them around a little more than a heavier quadcopter. But okay, again, I'll do a roundup of both. If you're left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.